ridiculous.
Well, here's the thing.
Maybe. Sometimes.
Tell me about this. I want to know more.
Oh, yeah. No.
Holy cow.
We've had a lot of fun.
So I'm not feeling like a very responsible, mature parent today.
Are there days when you do feel like a responsible, mature parent?
Sometimes I feel like I'm doing a better job than others, and today is not that day.
I think Catherine Hellucco had some parenting wisdom about that we discussed on a recent speed round.
That's right.
Do you ever just get too involved in your kids' issues, and then you take them on, and they become your issues, and then all of a sudden you find yourself with grudges against 16-year-olds, and it's just not healthy.
You are singing my song, friend.
Oh, yes. Today's one of those days, and it just irks me. And this sounds so old school, but why? Why do we have to have social media? Why do we have to have why can't we just go back to the days of, making a phone call to the house?
Oh, man.
I sound so ancient.
Though somehow we managed to humiliate and embarrass each other back in the Stone Age also.
We did, didn't we? And we managed to diss one another.
We did.
As well, which is my big beef today. I'm not gonna mention names. I'm not gonna.
You know who you are, for that. 16-year-old boy listening to this podcast.
If you're listening to this, you better smarten up. Anyway.
So what happened?
Well, it's just, social media has obviously changed the rules of engaging with one another, and in a, not a romantic way, but in a potential relationship way.
Yeah. Increases the width of the possibility of confusion on this topic.
Oh, so much confusion, because she's obviously confused, and then she comes to me for help, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there, done that.
Oh, no.
I got the advice for you. And then of course my advice doesn't work because it's 30 years old.
Oh dear.
But it keeps going on in this endless circle, and I just wish these take the whole social media thing away and
yes,
talk face to face or something. So anyway, the rules of the the goalposts of the relationship are consistently changing.
Oh, that's terrible.
Changing. She doesn't know one day to the next where she stands on that field.
So do you know this particular young gentleman who you are venting your wrath against? Do you know what he looks like? Could you give him the stink eye when you see him at school?
Well, I wouldn't ever see him because...
See, this is the problem with not dropping your kid off, is you have no opportunity to.
Well, there's 3,000 kids in her school, so even then, it's kind of like a shot in the dark.
I'm just remembering back to one particular high school dinner I was at where I felt that my child had been disrespected, and I was able to give the disrespecter an evil eye every time she walked by my table, and she eventually took it back. She made it right. She looked at me and she knew she was wrong, and I knew she was wrong. It was wonderful.
Isn't it terrible though? Like when you're like this, 40-something-year-old mom, and you're like, and you know what it is? And I think you just very neatly described the issue that I'm having right now is that there is a boy out there that is not being respectful of my daughter.
Yes.
And you better watch out.
And there's pretty much nothing you can do about it other than,
tell us.
Write little daggers on your notepad
and vent on this wonderful podcast.
That's right.
Which I'm now about to introduce.
Yes, indeed. That's what we're here for.
That's right.
That's what we're here for. So, yes, I'm not opening on a very positive note. I'm opening on a rant. And that is going to set the tone, I think.
Yep. Well,
for this.
What parents are complaining about right now.
That's right.
That's who we are.
Deep breath. Okay. Hello, all of those who have joined us and are listening in on my rant thus far.
Please feel free to substitute whatever young person you're angry at right now into Nicole's rant. Let's all just take a moment. Picture the punk that you're ticked at. Send evil vibes through the internet.
It's just like when you're in
Yes.
yoga class and the teacher says you can
Yes.
set an intention for the class. That's just what
Setting
we're
an
doing
intention
here.
for the podcast.
Setting an intention. And I bet you $10 I'm going to spend all day being super mad, and she's going to come home after school and be so
You're like,
excited
"It's all
and thrilled and
good."
happy. And it's all good.
You
What
said,
are you talking about, Mom?
but I still have all this righteous anger. What do I spend it on now?
Well, I'm going to turn my anger and channel into this introduction. So
Okay, go for it.
without further ado, hello and welcome to the Parenting Roundabout, a weekly podcast about the things that parents are talking about, obsessing about, and complaining about right now. I'm Nicole Erdix, and with me today are Terri Morrow
Hello.
and Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
And today on the podcast, we are going to talk about our kids' best qualities on our Friday speed round, shout out some stuff we like on the Roundabout Roundup, hear an interview with Robert Rummel-Hudson, and do some shameless self-promotion. But first, we hope this podcast won't disappoint you or be disrespectful towards you, and we hope you will listen and be respectful towards us. Because we are talking about what, Catherine? What's our first topic today?
So, kids and disappointment. Yes, since I am someone that has kids that play sports, that means facing disappointment a lot. Learning to deal with it is one of those air quote life lessons that people are always saying sports are good for. But, in the moment, it's really not very fun helping your kids through it. So we thought we would talk today about how we handle this, or maybe don't. Whether, it can be school, it can be sports, it can be, boys who are being annoying. What do you do? In my case, it's we are pretty sure that luge camp is no more. Yeah, I mean,
update us, Catherine. What happened?
And it's one of those things where we didn't really want it to go any further than it did, because then we'd have to make a really big, scary decision about whether to keep doing it, and
right,
because it would have required quite a lot of life changes and disruption. So, we were sort of hoping like, well, if he doesn't get chosen, then we won't have to decide. So, and that seems to be what happened, although we don't have the official word from the luge folks. But anyway, I haven't told him yet because he is going to be disappointed, even though he has pretty much come to the conclusion that we did, that if he was invited to do it, he probably wouldn't want to.
Oh, okay.
Still nice to be asked.
Right. It would have been nice to be asked. And I think that's it. Like, he would love to be able to know that he was selected, and even if he decided not to do it. So, so we'll have to deal with that soon. And I don't know how it's going to go.
Does your daughter get real disappointed when her team doesn't do well?
She does sometimes for skating. It's hard because it's such a subjective sport. And so it's very easy to be like, well, those judges are crazy. And, and that's not really a good life lesson either. So it's tough. I mean, it was tough because for several years on her skating team, they were very good and they did really well, and then they had a couple years of not so good. So that's hard. That's hard. It was hard kind of slipping back. So
right.
I don't know. But my daughter, she's pretty good about letting it roll off her back. I mean, she has friends who skate, but they don't compete because they just don't enjoy it. And
it's a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure, and especially if you're competing as a soloist. And, I never played sports, so I don't have a lot of frame of reference for this, but sometimes these girls, I'm like, what are you even doing here? Like, if you're not competing, like, what are you working toward? Because I think if you're going to put in the time, like, well, I guess there's testing and there's other things you can do, but
Yeah.
I don't know. So.
Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to compete against somebody. If you want to be doing it anywhere, even if you just want to do it as a performance thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, with my daughter, luckily, she faces it more, but she handles it well. With my son, he doesn't face it as much, but he also takes it harder. So,
yeah.
He,
that's rough.
Like, you know, he's now playing lacrosse, which is what a lot of hockey players seem to do when they're not playing hockey. And he's not getting as much playing time. And he's not used to that. You know, his hockey team was small, and his coaches were really good about, you know, keeping kids rotating in all the time. And with lacrosse, they're a little more focused on the better people getting more time. So, it's hard. I don't know. What about you, Nicole, with tennis and things like that?
Man, so my son, he handles disappointing situations probably like me, where he gets super bummed out for a period of time, and then we'll gradually come to terms with it. So he works through it. He's only done one individual sport in his life where he's had to compete and pass tests, and he was younger and he was successful at it. And then when he was older, he was on a team, so he had his team for support. Now he doesn't really do anything solo that requires any sort of competition, although he is hoping to get into med school in the next couple of years. So we'll see how he deals with that. My daughter, on the other hand, I didn't realize until this year. I mean, I always kind of knew she has a very different personality than I do. And she's been playing tennis for years and years and has been playing on the girls' tennis team. And last year was an okay season. It was her first season, so we didn't expect, you know, a lot of, I guess,
superstardom,
wins and fanfare. Yeah, exactly. And then this year, it was a terrible season for her. Just circumstances. She hurt herself. There were some new girls that came to the team that took up spots. And we thought she was doing remarkably well handling all this stress. Well, it turns out she was like falling to pieces inside and was so distraught and upset. And we didn't realize it until the very end. And I feel so bad because she kept it inside for all those months, and then finally she just imploded.
Aw, poor baby.
Yeah, so we need to be, and I kind of, and if you heard the beginning of this podcast, she's going through some stressors right now. Yes. Yeah. She's going through some stuff right now, and my dog's into the garbage. Okay. So
I was wondering what that was.
She's going through some stressors right now where she seems fine on the outside, like, I'm okay, Mom, and I can deal with it. I'm fine. It's okay. And I worry that the other shoe's going to drop, so to speak, in the next little while. So we have to be really careful with her, I think, is my realization as a parent as she gets older, is that she'll just take it, internalize it, and then all of a sudden implodes.
Yeah.
Whereas my son is much more, okay, this is really sad. I feel horrible. I'm going to lay in bed for 2 days. And then I'm going to get up and move on.
That is so much healthier.
So, yeah,
I heard a little snippet of an interview with Solange, you know, Beyonce's sister. And she was saying something like that, like how when she was younger, her mother would give them like 2 days of wallowing, and then they had to get up. It was like, okay, you had your moment. Like, I gave you that, and I think you deserved it. I think that was a good strategy, but it's over now.
Yeah. Whoa.
Sorry,
is everybody still there?
I'm here. I'm sorry. The dog is working through her issues right now. I'm not paying attention to her.
She's disappointed that you're not paying attention to her.
Yes, I apologize. Okay. So, Terri, how about you?
Yeah, you know, I was thinking what you were just saying about, you know, taking the time to acknowledge the disappointment and wallow in it a little bit and then move on. Catherine, I was thinking about the other night on Dancing with the Stars with Simone, where she was sort of expected to be smiling through these really discouraging comments. And there's been a lot of talk about how she was scowling and isn't that awful and she should be a good sport. And it's like, here's a perfect example of, you know what? This stuff is not fun to hear. Why does she have to act like it's fine? And why was nobody saying to Bonner, hey, buddy, how come you're not smiling as they tear your guts out here? You know, it's women are expected to just push it down and smile and take the high road and not show it. And then at some point, eventually you do always have to deal with it. And the longer you wait, the harder it is. Really, maybe you need to just tell those judges to
lay off.
Well, I can't say it on a family podcast, but you need to give them the, you know, stink eye. So my problem with disappointment has never really been so much my kids' disappointment as my huge overinvestment in everything they do. And so I am disappointed to the point of agonizing around the house over things that they've already forgotten about or never really cared that much in the first place, you know? And that's a problem. Your dog is feeling me, Nicole. And, you know, I think we've told this, I know we've told the story here before of my mother lying on a couch with a wash rag over her eyes out of disappointment inflicted upon me. And I was supposed to get a part in a play, and I came home and she said, "Did you get the part?" And I said, "Oh no, but John asked me out, so I'm really happy." And I was all happy and excited, and she's still processing that I didn't get a part in the play, like for the next week. She's like, "You can't be happy. Stop that. We were on this thing here."
Right, and they've moved on. I think that's another part of with me too, is that I get so emotionally invested in it, and I get to, with my son, I get to work through it. Oh my gosh,
Pooch has something to say.
I'm gonna go put peanut butter in her little toys so that she'll spend time eating it.
Okay.
Hang on a second, okay?
All right.
Okay, thanks.
I wouldn't mind some peanut butter right now. Peanut butter in my refrigerator right now is dog peanut butter, so it's like a year past expiration date.
Dog
She's the only one who
peanut
eats
butter?
it.
Like peanut butter you've saved for the dog?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Because it's no longer fit for human consumption, but she seems to like it just fine.
It's delicious.
I mean, I feel bad, like maybe it's not good for her, but on the other hand, she eats rotten stuff off the street and seems to live through it. So I think that, you know.
Well, and also like most
peanut butter that's been in the refrigerator.
Most expired food is probably fine.
Yes. That is true.
Which sometimes I have to make my they're like, "Oh, this says it expired yesterday." I'm like, "It's fine, eat it." Yes.
Sell by.
Yeah, I try to explain the difference between sell by and...
So, all right. Is the pooch happy?
She's got peanut butter.
She's got peanut butter.
Okay. Yeah, so the problem of mom being more disappointed than kid over a kid thing is a big problem, and one I don't think I am alone in. Yeah. I think that's fairly... I'm often disappointed that they are not disappointed. Right.
Guys,
how bad it gets.
Yeah.
Is it just me?
Don't you want to do anything about this? Don't you want revenge? No,
feel bad. Feel bad. Don't you feel bad? Don't feel bad, but feel a little bad.
Like, have some feeling about it.
Yeah.
Yes, and I was, of course, always putting my kids in things with high hopes, and then nothing was coming of them. So there was a lot of disappointment for me over things that they just really had no awareness that there was an appointment to be dissed.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Well, that I think also goes into like how realistic should you be to your kid, well, and I guess to yourself about their chances at something, right? Like.
Right.
You know, should we have been saying all along, like, well, you'll probably won't make those teams. No, that wouldn't have been a good idea, but...
No, that is a hard thing to thread.
Oh, honey, you're never going to date in high school, so don't even think about it.
Lots of people don't get married till their 40s. It's fine.
Exactly.
You've got time.
You'll find someone someday.
And then sometimes when they are disappointed about something, it's like this is beneath the disappointment threshold. Stop worrying about this.
Right.
You know, poor sinking of parent and child disappointment
Yeah.
is
Seriously.
I guess that's
a
hard.
problem.
Maybe that's what Xanax
that's
is
not
for.
something to be disappointed on. Look at the big things I have to be disappointed. Carry some of this burden, will you,
Yeah,
child?
come on.
Well,
What are you doing?
but yeah, how do you do that of not raising expectations, but also not acting like, well, you'll never get that. You don't want to be that parent, but you also don't want to be the parent that says, "Oh yes, there's my 5-year-old playing, playing softball. He's going to be in the big leagues one day."
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah.
There is a middle
Like, that
ground, but I
doesn't
don't know what it
help
is.
anybody.
Yeah, but you want them to be excited. You want them to feel that this is something worth doing. I don't know. I have not. Fortunately, I did not have kids who were real ambitious in those ways. But if I did, that would be really hard to know what to do.
Well, I've resorted to using the phrase, "It's a learning experience."
There
Do you say that to
go.
yourself also?
Yeah, try.
That is in the dictionary of lame mom phrases.
You're learning.
Yeah.
You're learning so much about dating right now.
Right.
You're learning so much.
I tend to say, this is how we learn, you know?
Yes.
So you made a mistake on Facebook and were embarrassed and humiliated. This is how we learn what to put on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not comforting at all.
Yeah. But true, right?
At the
So
same
maybe it has some value.
I think mostly the value it has is my mother doesn't understand. I think that's its
Yeah.
value. And then maybe she doesn't bring her problems to me. Yay!
Sometimes I wish I could have just been that mom that just really didn't tune into what was happening and
Yeah.
just kind of glossed through life and, like in the, had my afternoon cocktail at 3 with...
Well, that may be the key.
Yeah.
Alcohol may be the key. Just wine.
Load up before they come home from school so you're ready for anything.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, my end of the conversation is quickly disintegrating.
Well, it is one way to cope for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we switch gears and talk about our kids' best qualities instead?
There we go. All the ways and they don't disappoint us.
Yeah, we thought for our speed round, after we got through all the talk of disappointment, we would talk about what are some of our kids' qualities that we wish we had. And honestly, dealing with disappointment or not getting hopes way up is something that I admire in my kids. I don't really know if they are not disappointed and not getting their hopes up or if they just can't communicate it. But either way, they do often seem way more zen than me. So.
Zen. I like that.
I wish I had that quality.
Mm-hmm.
But no. And I don't know how real it is because my daughter does have problems with anxiety. So it may be like with your daughter that she just holds it in and then until it's to a point where and that's not a good quality. I have, as older I get, have been, more of the just spill it immediately variety, which is not good either. But my kids generally seem to take things. I think that my daughter especially is getting into a point in her life where she deals with things right away. If something bothers her, she is proactive about either complaining about it or telling the person she's not happy about it. And that's admirable.
Great.
I can't do that.
Good.
I can't do that. We had something recently where somebody who I've always just followed a policy of non-engagement with. And she said something that made my daughter mad, and my daughter told her so, and she backed down. And I'm like,
Like,
whoa,
hey, that worked.
never do that. When she stood up to her, I thought, don't do that. Are you crazy? So that is an excellent quality. I admire. I see that coming along more and more as she gets more mature. How about you, Catherine? What qualities would you say you admire in your kids?
Well, my son, first of all, has a really good memory. Like, not so much for like multiplication tables, but just for things that he's seen or done or read or whatever.
Yeah.
He can just remember, and it always impresses me when he does. I mean, the first time I still remember when he was like 2 or 3, and he started talking about eating popcorn at the city pool, and it was like months and months after it had happened, and he was so little. I'm like, how do you know that? So that, and just also his like goofiness that he still has because he's a little kid. Like the other day when we went to pick him up after school, and he was wearing a banana costume, like just standing outside of the school, dressed as a banana. So
true, yeah, as one does.
So. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have to mention that my son also has phenomenal memory, very specific, but like he can. I think I might have mentioned my husband keeps a list of everything we've had for dinner for like the past 7 years, 10 years maybe, and my son can remember things. So when did we have this last? And he'll say we had it this month, and we'll look back, and he's right. So that's phenomenal. And he also can remember what kind of cars people have and like how much mileage they have on them and when they're due to be inspected and stuff like that. That's like, there should be some place to use that skill. Right. There should be some job that would benefit from that, but we have not yet found it.
Not an auto mechanic, customer service?
He's not interested in that part of a car. He's he remembers what kind of car it is, what make, what model. Oftentimes license plate numbers.
Wow.
Yeah.
You need like a family but business phenomenal that's memory. A garage, and he would be able to be like, it's time to call up the Joneses because their car needs something.
And he would remember when they were in last.
That's right.
What car they had, how many miles were on it then.
Yeah. He needs a job like that.
I should rent him out to mechanics, like to be their reminder person.
Yeah.
There's got to be a niche.
Well,
how about you, Nicole? What qualities do you admire in your kids?
My son is hilarious. I love him. He just cracks me up. He's got such a wicked sense of humor and just easygoing and personable, which I really admire, but at the same time, very emotional. So that's kind of, okay, we're not talking bad things, we're talking good things.
Oftentimes they go hand in hand, sadly.
Yes, he's got a very kind heart.
Aww.
And yeah, he's very funny. He does the best Napoleon Dynamite impression I've ever seen. Makes us laugh every time. And my daughter is she has nerves of steel. Like I don't know, she can deal with a lot. Well, not in a bad way, but she just can turn things off and on and categorize it, like her feelings, and she sees other perspectives, and she's a really good problem solver. She's excellent at solving problems.
That's great.
So she's, did I ever tell you the time when she was 2 and I was trying to bring the water bottles in from outside?
No, I don't think so.
Ever tell you that story? Oh, okay, I'll quickly tell you a story then. So she was 2 and just, baby, toddler. And we used to get our water delivered in big jugs, for a water cooler.
Uh-huh.
And they were outside the door. There was like 4 of them. And I just hated bringing them in and putting them in the garage. And it was just always a big chore to do. And they were heavy and whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was complaining about it out loud one day. Probably to my husband or somebody, and no, because he wasn't home, because he would have done it. That's right. He was probably traveling somewhere. So I was complaining about having to bring these water bottles in because they were so heavy to carry. And my daughter, who's 2, says, "Mom, why don't you just tip them over and roll them in?"
Oh,
wow.
So I was like, hey, that's kind of smart. I never would have thought of that. So she's really good about coming up with little strategies for life hacks.
There you go.
Okay. Well, that's it for our Friday speed round. Remember, you can hear a new speed round every Monday through Thursday.
And now we're going to bring you some of the things we've read or seen or used recently that we want to shout out and share with you on our Roundabout Roundup. So, Terri, what do you have?
Yeah, I want to share something that I saw today that made me laugh, and I think it will make you laugh too. Anybody certainly who is a Hamilton fan, it will make laugh. And anybody who is a fan of the comedian Jim Gaffigan, either of you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I read at least one of his books where he talked about his 5 kids. And they made a video for their mom while she was in the hospital that takes the opening number for Hamilton, and I won't spoil it, but gives it sort of a amphibian twist. And so it's cute not only because it's really funny to see them do it, especially if you know the rap, but also I kind of was interested to see what his kids look like. They're adorable. So it was on Lin-Manuel Miranda's Twitter feed today that he sent it to him. So it's a nice, amusing couple of minutes for you in your day.
Cute.
Yes, it was adorable.
Nice. And Nicole, do you have something to share?
Well, last week when my aunt was here visiting, we went to a store. I don't know if you have it back east, but it's called Kirkland's.
We have one.
And it's a home goods store. I love going in there. It always smells so nice. And you can, if you're looking for something for your house, either decor or necessity or just browsing, it's a fun store to be in. And there's great discounts. And then you can get this app where you can get even further discounts. So I'm giving a shout out to Kirkland's because I brought home some great home decor last week, and I'm very excited to have it.
Cool.
It's a good place to go if you're inclined to decorate your house. So
Cool.
Kirkland's place to be.
And I'm going to mention a podcast I listened to the other day. It's not one of my regular rotation, but it is the Edit Your Life podcast with Asha Dornfest of Parent Hacks, if you've ever been on that site, and Christine Coe, and they had written a book together, which I think the title is Minimalist Parenting, something like that. So anyway, they have a podcast, and they had Gabrielle Blair on, who is known as Design Mom, and this one was specifically about reducing stress around school, especially high school and college, like choices. They talk a lot about community college and how much of a sort of like secret weapon that can be, which I know Terri has often talked about.
Yes.
So it was an interesting discussion.
Cool. Okay, I keep seeing that coming up on my RSS feed. I didn't realize it was because it was the Parent Hacks people. So that must be why. I'll have to give that a listen. That sounds interesting.
It was. So that's it. I think we all rounded something up.
Next, we have an interview with Robert Rummel-Hudson, who joins us once a month. He is the author of Skylar's Monster, and he blogs at Fighting Monsters with Rubber Swords and its support for special needs. So let's hear that interview now. So you have some thoughts on fidget spinners, the new topic of outrage, apparently.
Yeah, I keep seeing the posts, and I feel like the posts I'm seeing are mostly from teachers.
Yeah.
And I get that. I really do, because I can imagine being in a classroom and having a bunch of kids with the spinners.
Yeah.
My first caveat is I've not actually seen one of these spinners in the flesh, in the plastic flesh. So it may turn out that when I see one, I'm going to immediately be like, oh yeah, that thing's irritating as hell. We can't have that. But
we're talking about them in theory here.
Right. To me, it feels like it ties into a larger topic about invisible disabilities and how we confront those invisible disabilities. The fidget spinners, that seems like a special topic because these were, and I'm sure people know what they are.
Yeah. Google
fidget spinner. Oh my God, you'll find plenty.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest issue right now is that, these are being, they're showing up in classrooms, kids, neurotypical kids, everybody apparently has them. Apparently my kid, me, we're the only two people in the world that don't own them. I got to go out and do something about that, I guess. The thing I think we lose sight of is the fact these were originally intended for kids with disabilities.
Yeah.
Kids with autism, kids with ADHD, kids with sensory issues and anxiety issues, and all sorts of things that these little fidget toys will allow them to focus and calm their anxiety and whatnot. So it seems a little strange to me that on one hand they've been sort of co-opted by a large population. And I'm not sure how that happened. I suspect it happened in the same way that some of the things that my daughter faces when she uses her iPad in school.
Yeah.
That someone looked at it and said, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And before you know it, it starts to eat this general population.
Right.
Sort of get their attention. And I hear from teachers who talk about the incredible distraction that these put in the classrooms, and what do you do about it? And I know there aren't any easy issues, but the one issue I keep seeing, anytime it comes up, because I'm a troublemaker on Facebook, I always bring up, no, it was originally for kids with disabilities. So, you can't take that away, or you're breaking the law and the social contract and everything else. That's the answer isn't just ban them, because then, what about the kids that they do help?
Mm-hmm.
And the response, and it seems like a reasonable response on the surface, is, well, for the kids who have them as part of their IEP or their 504, those kids we will allow to use them.
Yeah.
And the problem with that, I feel like, is the same problem that we have in sort of general population. I want, just to make it in personal terms, I want my daughter to be comfortable with her disability. I want her to be comfortable with that as part of her identity.
Yeah.
But she's got to get there herself.
Right.
And she's not there. She's 17. She's in that phase where she wants to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to be identified by the thing that she still struggles with.
Yeah.
And I get that. I remember what it was like to be different in any way, much less in a significant disability related way.
Uh-huh.
So I want her to be comfortable with that, but I'm not going to push her towards that until she's ready. I'll probably never push her towards that, but she'll get there on her own. And one of the reasons that she's had so much success with her assistive technology and with her iPad is that she is able to sort of maneuver in a social setting in a way that doesn't instantly identify her as having a disability.
Yeah.
And I feel like when we start saying, well, we're gonna publicly identify the kids who need going back to the fidget spinner. And it's very hard for me to be serious when I refer to fidget spinners, but I'll try to give
bigger issue.
Try and give them the gravitas that they're living with. I think the problem with just sort of separating these only to be used by kids with disabilities is you are, just by that action, you're stepping away from the sort of ideas of inclusion and give agency to the kids who have disabilities. Yeah. Because now, all of a sudden, this isn't the cool thing everyone's using.
Yes.
Now it's a thing that, first of all, it's the thing that, well, that's for the special ed kids or whatever awful terminology the kids are using these days.
Yeah.
And, just for fun, you throw in this extra layer of resentment. Well, why he gets to use that? I want to do that. Well, and at no point is the agency of, here's how much I'm going to divulge about my situation and my condition. That agency is taken away.
There's all these layers of protection. Oh, no, you can't tell this person. We can't give this document to that person because there's confidentiality. But if you see a kid with a fidget spinner, they probably have an IEP, just so you know.
Exactly.
Hello.
And when I bring this up to teachers, I mean, sometimes on Facebook, you're just fighting.
Yes.
Sometimes on Facebook, you're just fighting because it's like, well, I can't do anything to, affect my child's disability, but I can pick a fight with a stranger, and that makes me feel better. And I understand how useless that is, and I understand how vital it is at the same time.
It feels good sometimes.
But this is a case where I feel like I want to reach out to people who are feeling so much anxiety about the fidget spinners.
Yeah.
And say, maybe if you can just endure this, maybe if you can just find ways to push past that distraction instead of, affecting a solution. Maybe the solution is just to let it happen.
Yeah.
And explain why that's a good thing. I feel like this is a cause I want to not be, that loud jerk who just went off, but actually have the teaching moment, the teachable moment. I'm never very good with the teachable moment, but this is one where I would like to be, Yeah. People with invisible disabilities, that's a rough thing to negotiate socially. I read a thing just this morning on Facebook. Someone had posted about when disability. The name of the title of the article is "When Disability Is Misdiagnosed as Bad Behavior."
I saw that go by on Facebook.
Why do strangers keep demanding that disabled people prove they're disabled? And it talked about a case where a young man in his 20s got maced in the face for eating the free cookies at the grocery store.
Oh, man.
Excessively eating the free cookies, I guess.
Yeah.
And there was another case where a young woman with Crohn's disease got sort of harassed on an airplane, not taken seriously because she needed to be sitting near the bathroom.
Yeah.
And on a personal note, I'd like to say that if you work in the airline and someone requests to be seated near the bathroom, I feel like that's a request you should honor without a lot of questions.
Really?
I just, my thought is that's not a situation you want to see go bad.
Right. Plus, don't most people want to not be seated by the bathroom? Wouldn't that be easy to accommodate?
Yeah, I figure if someone wants to sit next to the bathroom, it's not for aesthetic reasons.
That's right.
Yeah, it's not for the ambiance. It's because there's a legitimate reason.
Yeah.
But in both these cases, what you have are people in the general public, and this is so familiar. You have people in the general public sort of policing disability.
Yes.
Trying to make sure you're not getting away with something.
Right.
And
who asked them?
And it's the same thing when someone is parking in the in disabled parking spaces. Someone's got to come over and look at your plates and look for the tag, ask you why, or if you get up out of your wheelchair at the grocery store to get something on the top shelf, there's always going to be someone who's like, hey.
Yeah.
And this impulse to police disability, I don't think I understand it. Other than there's this sense, I think there's just this sense that people are trying to get away with something.
Yeah.
And with the fidget spinners, I feel like we're in danger of the same thing.
Right.
I don't know what the answer is, other than just, accept the fact that maybe there are people out there who are getting away with something. But I think in general, that's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to risk punishing somebody who is legitimately in need just to be able to say gotcha to people who aren't.
Exactly.
Or on the side of more people being accommodated.
And what I would like for people to understand is that the asking, the policing, even if it's done professionally, politely, whatever, that's still traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I see it with my daughter. I see it with Skylar. I see people asking her questions about, how come she gets to use her iPad? Because she uses it for more than just as a speech device. And I encourage that because she's communicating, she's texting, she's using social media. She's expanding the use of this device in a way that I think is very, very cool.
Yeah.
I actually had a teacher. Oh my God, I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast. Yeah. Because I'm about to say something rotten.
We've had a lot of that on this episode, so we're good.
Yeah, we had an hour-long conversation this week. And it was not, it was not a friendly conversation. There was a lot of pushback. And it may be an hour that at the end of my life, I'm on my deathbed wishing I had that hour back because I'm not sure how much good it did. And I'm thinking, I wish I had that hour. But one of the things that came up was that she felt like Skylar was abusing the privileges afforded by her iPad.
Oh, man.
And I understood what she was saying. I got it. But part of me is like, yeah, that's pretty unfair.
The privilege of communication, you're abusing it, Doesn't everybody else just get that as a right?
Part of me is thinking, Skylar understands unfair.
Yeah.
If every now and then she's getting a little unfair advantage, I think in the big ledger, that's the exception and not the rule.
Right.
But again, it comes back to this whole idea that someone's getting away with something, even if it's a kid with a disability. What are the boundaries that we set for accommodations?
Right. The whole thing with the spinners and the fact that here is something that was an accommodation for kids with special needs that has now become cool and popular, and that's a good thing because now you can have your accommodation without sticking out. And then it becomes a backlash and everybody's mad about it and they want to take it away from everybody. It reminded me of what happened with gluten-free food, I think, in that there were people who needed gluten-free food and it was difficult to find and there wasn't much selection. And then people who don't need it started to want it. And suddenly it was readily available. It was on menus. It was in supermarkets. Wonderful. This is a huge boon to people who legitimately need it. But then, of course, the backlash police come and say it's all a hoax. If people who don't need it are eating it, then it's completely useless and you're lying.
Right.
And no, we don't say that everybody who drinks diet soda has to prove they have diabetes. Some people just want to drink diet soda. Why is that a problem? Why do we have to take all these things away? It's just,
sort of normalizing these accommodations, I think is an unintended benefit if you'll let it be.
Yeah, it's
when
what
I talk
we
about
want.
hearing about this from teachers, I should clarify and say, hearing this from general education teachers,
Yeah.
I imagine special education teachers are like, oh my God, yes, please let this happen.
Right.
And the trend will pass, and pretty soon they'll be doing the next thing. And the kids who want or need to fidget spin, that's a verb, they can do that without, 100 trendy online pieces being written about it. And I guess what it comes down to, if we're looking for a big finish to this segment, I don't have one. I think what it comes down to for me is just a little bit of empathy and just a little bit of chill.
Yeah, absolutely.
If someone's behaving in a way that you don't understand, if someone's being disabled in a way that you don't understand, you don't really have to understand.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
And if someone is getting away with something, well, you know what? Karma's going to get them. You don't actually have to be the person to do that.
Okay. Thanks for chatting with us this week, Rob, and we'll look forward to talking to you next month.
Thank you. A lot of fun, as always.
And now for our final segment today, we're going to do a little shameless self-promotion and direct you to some things on our sites that we think you should take a look at. Catherine, what do you have for us today?
Well, I just wanted to mention our Parenting Roundabout Instagram feed.
Yay.
Because
yes.
it's fun. We just, for all of our podcasts, we pull out some of the most fun or entertaining quotes, and Terri makes these fun graphics with them, and I post them on Instagram, and it's just fun to pick them out and put them up there, and I enjoy that, and it's a fun little thing to have pop up in your Instagram feed.
Yes.
Awesome.
Cool.
Terri, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to have a post up today on the Friendship Circle blog that kind of ties in with something we recently did as a podcast topic, which was medals for parents. In this case, I made little graphics of medals for moms in honor of Mother's Day. And you might take a look at that and, imagine yourself hanging one or two of those around your neck.
That's great. And I actually have something new to talk about this week,
Yay.
which was a collaborative effort between myself and Terri via the Friendship Circle of Michigan. And that is 8 special education websites for parents and teachers to have a look at if they're looking for ideas, classroom hacks, information about special education.
Yeah,
Great.
Very interesting. Some good stuff there. We will have all the links for these on our podcast page.
Great. And that's it for this week's episode of Parenting Roundabout. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us every week. You can listen to podcast episodes on parentingroundabout.com or download them from iTunes, or are we supposed to call it Apple Podcasts now?
Are we now?
I don't know.
We can.
Somewhere on your iPhone, we're there. Just keep looking.
The podcast portal, whatever it may be.
Right, whatever they're calling it. So when you find it, please subscribe so that you'll get all of our podcasts and mini podcasts. And we're not just on Apple Podcasts. We're on everybody else too.
If you go to our podcast page at parentingroundabout.com and you click on About, you can see a list of all the different places we are. Try a new one every day.
That's right. And in addition to that, you can follow us all on Twitter, where I am at CHaleko, Nicole is at Nicole Eridix, and Terri is at Mamatude. And then you can follow the podcast on Twitter, that's Roundabout Chat, and look for us on Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, and as I mentioned, Instagram. Best of all, though, just stop by our podcast page at parentingroundabout.com for every link that you could ever need, and recaps and a chance to talk back to us in the comments. Thank you to John Morin for our in and out music, and I wish everyone a great week.